So, how do you come to know race and ethnicity? I would say you come to know this by experience and culture. I do want to start by saying that I think this isn't developed when you're young. I think you start knowing the concept and you start understanding who you are as you become older and you learn. So, for an example, when you're older, you start to notice how your culture may be different from other people and the values that are within that, along with traditions. So if you don't experience any difference between yourself and someone of a different race or ethnicity, then you're not aware of it. That's how I would put it. So if you're surrounded by people that you think are similar to yourself, you're not going to really notice any difference in like the way you live your life, I would say. So one way of also like coming to know race and ethnicity is by your social identity. And again, if you're not surrounded by different people, then you're not going to know really where you fit in. But so social identity is defined as the ways in which individuals and collectivities are distinguished in their social relations with other individuals and collectivities. So that's in chapter 1 that we read. And I think the key word in there is distinguished, because you really want to know how different you are from other people, which is how you would identify yourself in a group setting. I think it's a really good way of looking at it like that. One way you can actually come to know race and ethnicity is by going to school. So a lot of kids, when they're young, they end up going to school and they meet a lot of people from different backgrounds. I think that's a really good way of learning of how you're different from other people, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you're learning that other people live different lives. Not everybody goes home and has the same kind of food or the same kind of traditions, like celebrating Christmas, for example. Everybody's different within that. And also, you're learning that you're different, but it's not a bad thing, which is also you're learning your social identity within school. Okay, so really quickly about the school thing, I think it's also important to make sure you're not starting to stereotype people. And it's not that kids are doing this on purpose, but I think it's really easy to. So the definition of stereotype would be oversimplified preconceptions and generalizations about members or social groups that provide meaning and organized perceptions, inferences, and judgments about persons identified. So that's the definition from chapter 1, which we also read. I think this can be kind of dangerous because stereotypes arise when you're kind of just grouping people. So if you meet a couple of people in your school that are of different race or ethnicity, you're going to start kind of just assuming that everybody else is like them, which can have negatives, obviously. Something else that you learn as you get older is that groups and cultures have different values, which I kind of talked about in the school as well. I think it's also, like I mentioned before, you're going to learn that people go home and they have different routines. Another good thing about kids learning that people live different lives outside of school and that they have different values and traditions is that they're learning to feel uncomfortable. For example, like if a kid learns that somebody doesn't celebrate Christmas because of their culture, they're going to feel uncomfortable because they think it's the right way. In the film that we watched, Cracking the Codes, identity and culture was talked about, and dissonance and how the brain tries to remove it, which is just the feeling of uncomfortable, because we don't like to feel uncomfortable as humans. I think this is important to start out when young, because as you grow older, it's good to feel uncomfortable. In a past reading that we did, we talked about how it's good because it allows you to hear other people's side to things. So an example would be politics. If you're uncomfortable talking about something, it's okay, because you still get to learn why somebody does things the way that they do. And it's really the only way to make progress in society. And yeah, I think that's how you come to know race and ethnicity, by culture and experience.